Let's go Lions! A big piece of news just shook up the Lions draft board, and it's the kind of development that could reshape how Detroit approaches the upcoming NFL draft. Let's get right to it. But first, make sure you've hit the like button if you've been a Detroit Lions fan for 22 plus years. If possible, write one pride. Now here's the deal. There's a wide receiver, one who was once untouchable at the top of the draft, and now, due to some recent revelations, he's on the decline. That guy is Matthew Golden. Yes, that Matthew Golden. The electric, high-potential, game-changing talent with sub-4.3 speed who, just a few months ago, wouldn't have been expected to go higher than the top 10 pick. Now, he could fall into the Lions' lap, or at least close enough for a non-breakout trade. Golden, who measured in at 5 feet 11 inches and 190 pounds, is a fascinating draft case. Despite his elite speed, clocking an eye-popping 4.29 in the 40-yard dash, concerns around his durability are starting to mount. There's chatter about a lingering ankle injury and a foot issue that pulled him from the Longhorns' playoff loss to Ohio State. That kind of injury history, especially when paired with size concerns, is the kind of thing that sends top prospects sliding. And for a team like Detroit, picking at 28th, that's music to their ears. Now, let's make something clear. Golden isn't your prototypical X-receiver. He's not built like Tim Patrick, and he's more in the mold of Amon-Ra St. Brown in terms of his skill set. But you know what Brad Holmes has consistently said? He doesn't care about position fit. If you're the best player on the board, he'll take you. That's why the Lions brought Golden in for one of their top 30 pre-draft visits. If he's slipping, they want to know exactly who he is, what he brings, and how he's doing physically. That visit sends a clear message. Detroit is serious about him. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Holmes didn't exactly go out of his way to reaffirm long-term confidence in Jameson Williams. That's not to say they're out on him, but it does open the door. Golden could be seen as either insurance or a potential star who simply outplays the rest. That's how this front office operates. Best player available all day.
Right now, mocks have Golden potentially going as low as pick 22 to the Chargers. That's just 6 spots ahead of Detroit. If he starts to slide on draft night, don't be shocked if the Lions move up a few picks to grab him. Holmes has done it before, and he'll do it again if the guy is worth it. But Golden isn't the only name fans should be watching. The Lions' position in the late 20s gives them access to a deep pool of premium talent. There's talk about Tyler Booker on the offensive line, a guy who could eventually take over for Taylor Decker or be a rock-solid depth piece with Dan Skipper's role far from guaranteed. Then there's the edge rusher market, which looks loaded this year. Kenneth Grant, James Pierce Jr., and others keep popping up in mocks. And don't forget about the UCLA edge options. They're stacked, and that position is always a priority when you're trying to build a defense that wins deep in the playoffs. Speaking of defense, the need on the line is quietly bigger than most fans think. Alim McNeill's injury at the end of last season means he'll likely miss the first half of this one. That's a huge gap on the interior. There's hope for Levi Onwuzurike to step up, but hope isn't a plan. If the right D lineman is there at 28 or even 60, expect Detroit to pounce. That brings us to a mock scenario that's both realistic and revealing. With picks 28, 60, and 102, Detroit could walk away with a defensive lineman like Norman Lott from Tennessee, an edge rusher like Savon Jones, and even double down on the edge with another selection. Yeah, maybe that's a lot of emphasis on one area, but in this league, you can never have too many guys who can get after the quarterback, especially when Hutchinson needs help and rotational depth is everything in December and January. And sure, a C grade on a 3-edge mock might not sound sexy, but it shows where the talent is and how this team could be thinking. Add in a swing at someone like Golden, and suddenly you're balancing risk and upside in the best possible way. Now the question becomes strategy. Does Detroit stay put and hope Golden falls? Do they trade up a few spots and secure him before someone else jumps in? Or do they trust in the depth of this class and fill out their roster with multiple solid contributors instead of swinging big? That's where we're at. A potential WR1 is within reach. Depth is available at positions of need, and Brad Holmes is as unpredictable as he is strategic. This draft could be one of the most pivotal moments in Detroit's quest to not only return to the NFC Championship, but to go beyond. So what do you think? Should the Lions make the move for Matthew Golden if he drops within range? Or do you want to see them double down on the trenches and play the long game? Let me know your thoughts, and stay tuned because this draft just got a whole lot more interesting. Let's keep going, because the implications of this potential Matthew Golden pick are even deeper than they first appear. And what the Lions choose to do in this draft could be a defining moment for this current era of Detroit football. Imagine this. Golden actually slides past pick 22. The Chargers pass. Then a couple of teams on the clock don't have WR as a priority or are targeting bigger, more physical X receivers. Suddenly, the Lions are staring at the board with Golden available at 25 or 26. Now Brad Holmes is on the phone. It wouldn't take a massive package to move up 2 or 3 spots. And if you believe this kid is a future WR1, you make that call without hesitation. Because here's the thing, the Lions are in a rare position. They don't need a star. They're not desperate, they're contenders, which means they can afford to swing for the ceiling, not just the floor. Golden, even with the injury history, offers elite traits. That 4.29 speed is unteachable. If you're pairing that kind of explosiveness with Amon-Ra's reliability and route precision, and Sam LaPorta's emerging dominance at tight end, you're creating a three-headed monster for Jared Goff, or whoever is under center long-term. Defenses would be forced to pick their poison on every down. Now let's say they do pull the trigger and land Golden. That doesn't mean the rest of the draft is suddenly less important. In fact, the pressure only ramps up to get those next 2 or 3 picks right. You've got to protect your investment. Offensive line becomes a serious target. That's why a name like Tyler Booker stays on the radar. Taylor Decker is getting older. He's still solid, but the wear and tear adds up fast. Penei Sewell is a foundational piece, but depth is everything. One injury to the line and suddenly that vertical passing game you're building around Golden, St. Brown, and Williams collapses. And defensively, the Lions need to be honest about where they stand. Yes, Hutchinson is a beast. Yes, Brian Branch is a rising star. But the pass rush outside of Hutch was inconsistent at best down the stretch. And with Allen McNeil recovering from that late-season injury, you don't know what you're getting until mid-season. You can't go into a year with that much uncertainty up front. That's why drafting a pair of edges or interior DLs isn't just plausible. It's probably the smart play. You don't win deep in January without waves of defensive linemen. Just look at the 49ers. Look at the Eagles. It's a rotation game now. That's where guys like Kenneth Grant or James Pierce Jr. enter the conversation. Both have been frequently mocked to Detroit for good reason. Grant brings power and run-stuffing ability. Pierce brings bend and burst off the edge. You pair either with Hutchinson, and suddenly you're collapsing pockets from both sides. That's how you flip momentum in the playoffs. That's how you beat the Eagles or the Cowboys. It's not just about scoring, it's about closing. Even that UCLA edge rusher who keeps popping up in mocks, don't overlook it. That's a sign. That's consistency. The scouts have honed in on where this class is strong, and it's clearly on the edges. If Holmes decides to double down, or even triple down, at edge, it's not overkill. It's foresight. Now pivot to pick 102. This is where championship rosters are built. You're not chasing stars here. You're adding depth, versatility, special teams value, or a long-term project with upside. And in this mock scenario, the Lions go edge again. Savon Jones. Why not? If the guy has upside, and your scouts see traits worth developing, stash him behind Hutch, Charles Harris, and Romeo Okwara. Let him learn, grow, contribute in bursts. That's the formula. Detroit's front office has been building this thing the right way for 3 seasons now.